Okay, this is your how-to guide for the Warhammer Super Safety. This is what I'll be using to show you guys the install. These are the parts that come inside of the pack. These are the tools we recommend. We also recommend a bottle of oil, which we do sell on warhammerarmaments.net. So you guys will be starting with a semi-automatic trigger pack. And the way that works is you will have to put the trigger on fire. And once you pull the trigger, the hammer will fly forward. As the bolt comes back, the hammer will go back, and once it interacts with the disconnector and you release the trigger, it will reset, and those two surfaces will be holding against each other. So that way, when you go ahead to release them again, the hammer will fly forward and the weapon will fire again. Now I'll show you the way that the Super Safety differs from that when we get it inside of there. So first thing we'll do is to start off by removing the grip to remove the safety, and then we can remove the hammer, and that'll allow us to remove the trigger. To remove the grip, we will need to take the T-handle hex wrench. This is a 3/16. You may or may not have the same screw. If you don't, you'll have to use a different tool. Sometimes they have them with a flathead. And as you're removing the screw, you should be able to start to wiggle off this grip, slide it down. And you have your grip screw. So with the grip screw, you'll have the grip spring, and which is, you can call that the safety spring, and then also the detent for the safety. So this is what holds the safety in place when the grip is screwed in. Set that off to the side. You will be needing the grip spring, and you can go ahead and push out the safety or wiggle it out. Set that off to the side, and then we can go ahead and start by removing the hammer. Now this is a great tool that we recommend. It is on suppressortools.com. It's a hammer tool. I'll show you how that works in just a second when we need to install the other hammer. But it also has a punch right here on the side that allows you to stick it right here, so that way you can take out the pins. What I recommend is pulling that hammer by pulling the trigger, so that way you can release the tension off the hammer. And you stick that through. That allows that pin to come out. You can hold on to that hammer and pull that rod back out. Clip. You can put that to the side. The pack does come with the hammer and trigger pins, so you can put that off to the side, and then we'll go ahead and take out the trigger. Doing the same thing with the rod. Pull that out. Slowly release the tension off of the spring. You can put that off to the side, and then you can allow your trigger to come out. And you can set your trigger off to the side. And then so this is what I have. What you'll have is your lower receiver without the trigger, obviously, or the safety and the grip. You still have the rear takedown pin, the front takedown pin, and you'll have the buffer tube with the castle nut and end plate. So starting with your install, what we'll need to do is set up the trigger for your install. So first thing you will need to do is take the spring that goes for the disconnector inside of the trigger. One side is coiled bigger than the other side. So what you need to do is take the bigger side and put it down in this little cavity here. And if you see, there is a rounded cutout space for you to place that in. And you may just have to push it down a little bit. And then, just check the tension, make sure it's going up and down freely. And that way it's not coming out. So what you'll need to do is take the disconnector now, and you'll place that where the hole goes there, and this rocks over there. And so basically what will be happening is it goes like that inside of the gun. And you can take the disconnector off for a second, so that way you can put the trigger spring on the trigger. And the way it needs to be oriented is where the legs are down, and this bar is going underneath it like that. So if you slide it underneath, you can actually just rock it up over, and then it makes it easier for the other side to follow. And so it should be looking like that. And then what you can do is put that back on, make sure everything is functioning correctly. And you'll be taking your lower receiver and placing the trigger inside. And what you need to do is take your trigger pin, line up the holes so that way it stays in. And what you'll need to do is take the disconnector and push it down against that spring so that way it aligns with the hole, and then you can push it in. So now that we have the trigger in, we see that works, we can go to the hammer. We need to put the hammer spring on the hammer, and the way that is going to be is where this bar hits this and the legs are facing down. So it wouldn't be where the bar hits this and the legs are facing up. So the best way to do that is come on the side of it so you can go inside of the spring, kind of push against it, and that way it rocks over. So you will put the legs of the hammer spring inside the two holes. You'll go against the tension, bring it down, and there's a catch under there. So that's what you'll end with. And by taking the end of it like that, you can place it inside of the lower receiver, and then you'll be pushing it down to align it with the hole, like so. So you can take your hammer pin, push it in. So once you get that through, you can take that and just knock it. Now that they're both in, you can rock this back. And then now you will have your trigger and hammer in place, like so. So your next step will be to take the cross bolt and place it inside where the safety will go. So what the best thing to do is push this hammer down and let it lock, so that way you're able to slide that through. And what I like to do is slide it all the way through and work it out just to make sure, you know, obviously it's working fine inside of the gun. And you can pull that out a little bit, and you're going to take your lever here, and it should be facing this way, not this way. Let's put it like that. Should not be hitting like this, it should be hitting like this. And you can take that and align it in the little pathway there. I like to pull that out, and then once that slides through, everything is working smoothly. Everything's moving freely. And your next step will be to flip it over. You're gonna have this hole here where the rounded detent is going to go, and going to be followed by the spring, the grip spring. And the best thing to do is take your oil, place a little bit inside the hole, and that's just because the detent is going to be rolling back and forth on this pathway there that is on the super safety. So best thing to do is slide it all the way in so the pathway is inside. Drop the detent in, take your grip, you can place the spring inside of there. And as you have it like that, you can align it in the hole so that we can kind of snap it down in a line. And your next step will be to take your grip screw, your tool for your grip screw, place it inside the hole. And the best thing to do is have it rock back a little bit, not like all the way seated, and you can actually see it going into the hole there. And as you tighten it, you don't have to be aggressive with it. Just slowly go, and once you feel it gets tighter and tighter, pull it, make sure you're good. And you can work that back and forth, make sure it's snapping, so that way you know the detent is actually inside of that pathway there. Now that we have everything installed, we can go ahead and do a function check. All the way to the left, with none sticking out of the right, is safe. So if I pull that, it's going to be no fire. Then all the way to the right is semi-automatic. So when we go to pull the trigger, the hammer will fly forward, and the bolt will bring that hammer back, and when it comes down, it's going to interact with the disconnector, and then when you release the trigger, it'll reset, and you should be able to fire again. Now we'll go ahead and put it on super safe. So this is a assisted reset trigger. So when you fire and the hammer comes back down, the bolt will continue and push this lever back, which resets the trigger without me releasing the trigger. And once the bolt comes back forward, that leans back forward and allows you to fire. So that is the function of the super safety. So once again, you pull, the hammer will come down, you will hear a click, and we fire as the lever comes back. So to go slow, pull, lever will go back, reset the trigger, and as it comes forward, it will fire again, allowing you to have faster follow-up shots. So that is a function check for your Warhammer Super Safety and your how-to guide.